University. You have a lot of stress in your lives. School teachers, you have your stress and the students' stress. You have to deal with both of those, and it becomes difficult. You also have stress in your family. You have stress with finances. And I want to show you in your body, not how to relax the stress a little bit. You relax your muscles today, and then 2 days later the stress comes back. I want to show you how to relax your stress deep inside the body so that you can relax and live in a state of relaxation even if you experience a stressful day. Okay? I'm going to explain it to you very shortly, and then I want to demonstrate it tomorrow to you. Stress is a global problem. It affects teachers and students all over the world, so it's not new. Every human being is experiencing stress. That's the bad news. The good news is, if we are experiencing stress, our body and our brain must have some way of bringing us back to relaxation. And that's what I want to show. Stress affects not just the psychology. It affects the nervous system. It affects the nervous system, the physiology of the body, and the neurology in the brain. And I want to show you a little bit about that. Every person in the world who experiences stress has trouble with concentration. Every person has trouble with irritability and aggression. Every human being who experiences stress has memory problems. They are distracted easily, and they can experience depression. It doesn't matter what the stress comes from, and it doesn't matter what your culture is or your language. Stress affects every human being in exactly the same way. I just came from China, and I worked with the survivors from the earthquake and the tsunami. They're under severe stress. But it's the same stress you were under during the war. It's the same stress as a teacher you experience now, or as a student when you're going to take your exam. You experience stress. Our brains all work the same way. It does not matter what culture we're from. So I want to show you how the brain works. I'm going to talk about neurology, not psychology. Psychology is different for each individual. How you talk about your stress, how you feel around your stress, that's different. But neurology is the same in every human being. How your brain deals with stress is exactly how my brain deals with stress, and exactly how the brain of the Chinese people deal with stress. It's the same. So if you understand neurology and how the brain functions under stress, you can reduce the stress in every culture around the world. This is a simple explanation of neurology. There are two parts to the brain that I want you to look at. This part of the brain here is called the cortex. And that part of the brain is about your concentration, your logical brain. It's the one you are using now to listen to me. That's the logical brain. This part of the brain here, which is deep inside the brain, this is the emotional brain. This is where anxiety comes from. This is where tension and emotions come from. If you take medications to reduce your stress, they are trying to reduce the excitement in this part of the brain. Okay? So I want you to understand, if you are a school teacher and your children are nervous or anxious, they are in this part of their brain. That's where the emotion comes from. Your job, which is difficult, is to stay in this part of the brain, which is logical. I'm also a professor at a university, and I know sometimes it's a little too difficult to stay in this part of the brain when the entire class is in this part of the brain. Because very quickly they will get me to come down to this part of my brain, and then there's no teacher in the room. There's all children in there. What we need to do is to figure out how do we change those two parts of the brain. And it's easier than you think. This part of the brain, when the activity in the emotional brain increases, automatically the activity in the logical part of the brain decreases. So when this becomes too high and you become anxious, this reduces. And you all have this experience at home. If your husband or your wife or your brother or your sister comes home and they're anxious or angry or nervous, the first thing you say to them is calm down. When you say calm down, you're asking them to use this part of the brain to come out of this part of the brain. If you stimulate this part of the brain, this part calms down automatically. So our brain is designed that if we have high emotions, we have low logic. If you reduce the emotions, you have high logic. Every human brain is designed the same way. So as a parent, when your child comes home and they're upset from school and they have high emotions, you say to them, calm down, and they increase their logic and they reduce their emotion. And this happens all the time with us. Our problem around stress is when we activate this part of the brain and it stays activated. So now we have low logic. We can't reason. And the emotions are too strong all the time. What we have to do is recognize that when those emotions are strong in the brain, they will actually affect very specific parts of the human body. The brain and the body are directly connected. It will affect your diaphragm, and that's why your breathing becomes shallow. That's what stress does. And when you go to a class to teach you to reduce stress, the first thing they tell you is take a deep breath. So you can relax the diaphragm. The back muscles during stress pull very tight. That's why you get a neck ache and a shoulder ache and lower back pains. Because the muscles contract because the stress is a sign that you're in danger. So your body begins to protect you because it feels like it's in danger. The psoas muscle, which very few people know about, the psoas muscle here connects the legs and the pelvis and the spine. They're the only muscles that help pull you together during danger. But when you have anxiety or stress, these muscles also contract. That's why you have trouble with your stomach. You have problems with your digestion. You have ulcers. And all of this is because the chemical reaction and the tightness in the stomach is creating problems. Don't take medication to get rid of the ulcer. Figure out how to get rid of the stress which has produced the ulcer. Okay? The last one is the spine. The spinal column will begin to contract very strongly. And because the nerves come out from the spine, you're going to have problems with your nervous system. All of these organs get affected with high stress or anxiety. Our nervous system is two parts. The sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. This one calms us down. This one allows us to get excited during danger. What we have to do is figure out how to turn this off when we're not in danger. And then we can activate this one that will calm us down. So tomorrow, when I give the demonstration on the exercises, we're actually going to affect the nervous system. We're going to activate this nervous system to calm you, and it will turn off this nervous system. We're going to work with the muscles with a very specific set of exercises. Those muscles are the muscles that I showed you. We're going to get them to relax deeply so that the relaxation comes from deep inside your body. And what that will do is cause the excited part of your brain to turn off, and the logical part of your brain can turn back on. These exercises, they reduce the tension in the tight muscles in the body. So our muscles are tight because of tension. The exercises will reduce that. They will reduce the activation of the emotional brain that's